Welcome, welcome. As the Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Brooklyn Law School. Yay! Throughout this evening, I will be introducing you to several incredible members of our community, as well as sharing with you some of the history and accomplishments of your fellow classmates that brought you all here today. Our first speaker is one of our newest faculty members here at Brooklyn Law School, Catherine Kim. Professor Kim teaches immigration law, administrative law, anti-discrimination law, and civil procedure. Her research focuses on the role of courts and agencies as engines for social justice reform, particularly as it relates to immigrants and communities of color. Professor Kim's scholarship has appeared in several prestigious journals, and she's authored amicus briefs for the federal courts, including one on behalf of legal scholars in the Trump versus Hawaii litigation before the Supreme Court. Before joining us at Brooklyn, Professor Kim served as the George R. Ward Distinguished Term Professor at the University of North Carolina School of Law. Prior to teaching at UNC, she was a staff attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union Foundation, where she litigated a range of cases relating to government policies enacted post 9/11, the school-to-prison pipeline, and the education rights of Native American children. Professor Kim earned her JD from Columbia Law School and her BA from Cornell University. She clerked for the Honorable Carlos F. Lucero on the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Catherine Kim.
Thank you, Professor Mulligan. It's my privilege to serve as your faculty speaker tonight, marking your official entry into the world of the law. We live in a world today where celebrity matters more than integrity, and social discourse is reduced to 280-character tweets, where distrust of political and legal processes is a given. Law school breaks from all that. Over the course of the next few years, you and those in this room will be engaged in a deep, years-long discussion about what it means to live under the rule of law. You'll be challenged in ways you've never been challenged before. You'll learn, of course, the black letter law, that is, the law as it is passed and codified. But you'll also learn to think critically about what the law can and should be. In doing so, you will learn about the power of law to improve not only the lives of your clients, but also of our communities, our nation, and the world at large. Law matters. It matters now, maybe more than at any point in our lifetimes. Children are taken from immigrant parents as a matter of routine. Communities are routinely devastated from the effects of global warming. Mass shootings are too frequent to count. The top 1% in our nation holds 32% of the country's wealth. And 1 out of every 4 black boys can expect to be incarcerated at some point in his life. 2.2 million Americans are currently in jails and prisons. But there's cause for hope. In each of these areas, there is a space for you to make a difference. You are the next generation's army of lawyers, legislators, prosecutors, defenders, thinkers that can turn the tide of these trends. Your training over the next few years, both inside the classroom and out, will prepare you for this formidable challenge. I know you're up to it. Like you, this is my first year at Brooklyn Law School. I chose to join this community after 9 years at the University of North Carolina School of Law and 7 years at the ACLU National Legal Department. I chose BLS because I know what a special community it is. Since its outset, Brooklyn Law School has been dedicated to inclusion, welcoming students of color and women well before other law schools would, and instilling in its community members values of integrity, hard work, and public service. Our alumni include Rosalie Gardner-Jones, class of 1906, who led marches on Albany and Washington to secure the right to vote for women. Or Florence Lucas, one of the few African Americans in the BLS class of 1939, who went on to serve with the New York State Commission on Discrimination and drafted the human rights law for our state. Or Marion Wynn Perry from the class of 1943, who worked alongside Thurgood Marshall in the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and wisely noted, if progressive causes are ever to achieve a strong foothold in America, they will have to do so within the framework of our legal system. I welcome you to join the ranks of this community of advocates. Your time here will change you in ways you can't possibly imagine. But for now, I wish you a wonderful start to your journey. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Brooklyn Law School alumna Gloria Greco. Gloria Greco is the Global Wealth and Investment Management, or GWIM, Compliance and Operational Risk Executive at Bank of America Corporation, overseeing compliance for the GWIM businesses, including Merrill Lynch Wealth Management and Bank of America Private Bank, companies I'm sure you might have heard of. Gloria is designated as the Chief Compliance Officer for Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith Incorporated, which is a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Beginning her career with Merrill Lynch, Gloria has been with the company for more than 30 years, holding positions within legal, accounting, finance, purchasing, and technology. Her experience includes security and consumer banking laws, intellectual property laws and contract law, compliance with anti-bribery, economic sanctions, campaign finance, and anti-money laundering laws, ethical decision-making, and managing conflicts of interest. If we suddenly need someone to teach a course at the last minute, I'm going to call Gloria, because it sounds like she knows our entire curriculum. Prior to assuming her current role, Gloria held various enterprise and line of business compliance leadership roles as well. She represents the company on industry committees and panels, including the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA, Large Firm Advisory Committee, which provides insights to FINRA regarding rule proposals and related matters. She's a member of the Compliance and Legal Division of the Securities and Financial Markets Association as well. Gloria is a graduate of Pace University's Lubin School of Business, where she earned a BBA degree in management, and Brooklyn Law School, where she earned her JD. She is also a member of the New York Bar and holds FINRA Series 7, 14, and 24 licenses. And with our great appreciation, Gloria is a longtime member of the Board of Directors of the Brooklyn Law School Alumni Association. Gloria was also lucky enough to be the daughter-in-law of one of Brooklyn Law School's greatest and most influential community members, Professor Joe Crea, who graduated from Brooklyn Law School in 1947, taught at Brooklyn Law School for over 60 years, and passed away just a few weeks ago at the age of 104. It is a great understatement to say that we will all miss your father-in-law tremendously. And with that in mind, let's all welcome our alumni speaker, Gloria Greco.
Thank you very much, Dean Mulligan. And you know, it's funny, we didn't plan this, but both of your comments actually resonate with what I was planning to say to the students, so I'm just going to be honest and say that. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It really is my honor and a privilege to be here with you tonight. On behalf of my fellow alumni, and there's many, I would like to welcome you to the Brooklyn Law School community. And I say community because it is bigger than your class. It's bigger than the student body. It's bigger than the members of the faculty and the administration and the vast alumni network. They, of course, form the core, but the school is also important to their families, not to mention very important to Brooklyn and to New York City. So your connection to the school, like mine, will last long after graduation and the bar exam. In short, Brooklyn Law School will be with you for the rest of your life. In my own situation, I not only received a wonderful education, but I found my soulmate and life partner. And as fellow students, we graduated together as part of the class of 1998. And along with my spouse, I gained a wonderful family, including my father-in-law, Joseph Crea. And Joe was an icon of the BLS community. You will find there is a reading room in the school library named for him, and a scholarship fund, as well as the chair of the dean of the law school. So sadly, Joe passed away just a few weeks ago. He was an incredible man who was loved and respected by many in the law school community. He really devoted his life to the school. He graduated from Brooklyn Law School in 1947 and spent the 60 years here as a professor of law, but was also an active member of the faculty and even well into his 90s, a member of the Alumni Board, along with me, which was a true pleasure. He's remembered by many not just for his professional knowledge, but also for his willingness to mentor students, which he did from day one, right up until his passing. He also was a zealous advocate for what he believed was right, even when it was contrary to the view of others, and in particular those in power. Around the dinner table on Sundays, he continued my education about life and also about what it means to be a lawyer. He also gave me insight into the history of the school and what a very special place it is, further strengthening my own personal connection to the law school community, and for this I am truly grateful. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you tonight, I tried to put myself back in time to the night 25 years ago when I sat where you are. I remember that feeling of excitement and, of course, some anxiety about embarking on my legal education. I was an evening student and had a demanding full-time job, so I naturally had concerns about how I was going to balance my work and school responsibility. Like most people, the initial few months were difficult. It took a little time to get used to the new language I was hearing, along with being exposed to centuries-old topics like torts and real property and contracts and civil and criminal jurisprudence. Although these topics are foundational to much of American life, they were not something I really thought much about on a day-to-day basis. I also was not really prepared for the heavy workload involved, since I had completed my undergraduate education at night, usually only taking 1 or 2 classes. But the good news is that after that first semester, with the help of a good friend who was an A student and who generously shared her study techniques with me, I found my rhythm. I also quickly came to realize that the better I was prepared for class, the more meaningful the material was for me. Most importantly, I really began to enjoy the mental stimulation. I mention all of this not to worry you, but actually to note that you will not be alone. Most of your classmates will go through the same period of adjustment, and it is totally normal, and you will get through it. I also mention it because it's important to know that you must take your work as a student seriously. It really does matter. The amount of effort you put in will have a direct correlation to what you get out of law school. Also, your grades are critically important and can have a significant impact on your career after graduation, something you may not be focused on right now. You will spend several years and a lot of money on your legal education, so you owe it to yourself to invest the time right from day one, starts tomorrow. If you do that, you'll get the most out of law school, not just from an intellectual perspective, but to be practical, also to maximize the job opportunities and the career you have ahead of you when you graduate. So I just want to share a little advice on how to navigate the study process. I was fortunate to make friends with some of my students in my first year who were smarter than me and who were serious about their education. I learned a lot from them, and we helped each other out with notes from class and study tips and just general moral support when things got tough. It was incredibly helpful, and I'm happy to say that all these years later, we still share a friendship and a special bond. One word of caution, though, something that I learned the hard way. Try to avoid comparing yourself to other students. There are going to be some that you think are smarter than you or are better prepared for a given class or exam. But measuring yourself against others can be dangerous. It can give you a false sense of security, or worse, it can shake your confidence. For example, after you finish exams, try not to talk with your friends about your answers. It will just add to your level of anxiety until the grades come out. And they could be wrong about something you had answered differently. So in short, keep your own counsel, and until you know for sure, this way you'll avoid a lot of unnecessary stress. But when I look back on it, one of the best things about law school was not just the relationships that I started here, but it was the intellectual stimulation and awareness raising that I experienced, and I think that's what Professor Kim was talking about. When you train to be a lawyer, you're required to consider both sides of every argument. This forces you to analyze and drill into things at a level of detail that no other profession requires. I recall being amazed when studying constitutional law that after reading a Supreme Court majority opinion, I would say, yeah, that's exactly right, that's the right answer, but then only to go on to read the dissenting opinion and say, oh, wait a minute, they're right too. So based on their arguments, you start to second guess the rationale of the majority. That's the beauty of studying law. It shows you how to think broadly and how to have an open mind. You also have to pay attention and stay focused, since the smallest detail or fact can significantly change the outcome of a case. And of course, you have to be able to articulate your point of view in a concise and fact-based manner. All of this aids you in being an effective advocate, which is your main job as a lawyer. This will have an indelible impact on who you are and give you skills that are portable, but also universal. Yes, the law degree is an important credential that only those who possess it can use. But the skills you obtain in law school also prepare you for many different roles and have impacts on almost every aspect of your life. In my own situation, I had worked for a number of years before becoming a lawyer, and after about 8 years practicing law at Merrill Lynch, I had the opportunity to move into a management role where I would lead a team of compliance professionals. This was a completely different career path to choose, but it was the one that I felt at the time was the right one for me and has worked out very well. I've since held several executive level risk roles at the company since my foray into compliance. I've had to navigate a lot of change, particularly during and after the financial crisis and the acquisition of Merrill Lynch by Bank of America. Today, my team and I oversee compliance and risk management for several large and complex world-class businesses that operate in one of the most heavily regulated industries and that are also undergoing a tremendous amount of change. My legal training and experience has been invaluable to me in these roles. It enables me to have a clear understanding of the law and regulation that applies to the business I support, which are clear drivers of the risk, but the skills I learned in law school are put to use every single day. In order to be credible and to effectively influence my business colleagues, or occasionally regulators, on these matters, I must be analytical and articulate. And I have to be able to effectively advocate for my position, both orally and in writing. Perhaps most importantly, and this is the punchline, I need to convey confidence in order for them to have trust in me and to be influenced by my point of view, which brings me to my last point. I have a clear memory of the enormous sense of accomplishment and self-affirmation I felt at the law school graduation. Not everyone can do it. In fact, when I was about to finish my undergrad work and someone suggested I consider law school, my first reaction was to reject the idea because I wasn't sure I had what it took to be a lawyer. But the idea intrigued me, and being someone who loves a challenge, I decided to apply. With the completion of each semester, I felt myself learning, growing, and developing in a way that would not have been possible without that law school experience. And that sense of self-confidence stays with you, impacting almost everything you do, whether it's practicing law, pursuing a career like mine that is tied to the law, or even if you take a completely different path, like being an entrepreneur or even an artist. The skills and confidence you will obtain in these next few years will be useful to you every day. In many different ways, it will also distinguish you from non-lawyers. Given this, it won't surprise you to hear me say that you have made a great choice in deciding to go to law school. In fact, I have a reputation for being a little bit of a proselytizer on this point, but I also want to say that you have made an excellent choice coming to Brooklyn Law School. This school has a palpable feeling of community. As I mentioned, it also enjoys a long history of empowering people and for advocacy, especially for those who are unable to do so for themselves. Yes, the school demands that you make a commitment to being the best that you can be, but when you meet that challenge, it's the greatest gift an institution like this one can give you. Thank you very much for your attention tonight. I hope my brief words have meaning for you and inspire you to make the most of your time. I truly wish you all the best in your very bright future as students and professionals.
Brooklyn Law School entering class of 2019. Take a look around. The students sitting with you will not only be your classmates, but also potentially your colleagues, your support group, your legal network, your mentor, or even your partner or spouse. You are among an accomplished, diverse, and inspiring group of students who bring years of dedication, passion, and initiative to our community. In the coming years, you will learn that your fellow students are your greatest assets here at Brooklyn Law School. Take the time to forge new connections, to challenge yourself intellectually, and to become immersed in all the educational, legal, and cultural opportunities that will present themselves during your tenure here. The 2019 entering JD class is composed of 408 students who were selected from more than 3,600 applicants from around the world. 345 of you have enrolled in the 3-year JD program. 29 are in our 2-year accelerated JD program. 34 are in our extended 4-year program. And joining the incoming JD students are 5 new second-year students who have transferred to Brooklyn Law School. Our campus is proud to stand at the frontier of a broad global community. This year, we also welcome 21 new LLM students who come to us from 18 countries, including Italy, Trinidad and Tobago, Belgium, Nigeria, Uzbekistan, and Costa Rica. All of them hold law degrees in their home countries and have come here to study alongside you, the JD students. We also welcome 7 exchange students who will join us this fall from Germany, Argentina, China, the Netherlands, and India. In the first-year JD class alone, your birthplaces span 4 continents, 28 countries, and 28 US states. 35 of you are first-generation Americans. You speak 47 languages and dialects other than English, ranging from Pashto to French to Cantonese, and 61 of you speak at least 3 languages. I'm impressed. 59 of you reside in the center of the universe, otherwise known as Brooklyn. Some more statistics. The class median age is 24, the youngest of you is 20, and the oldest is 56. For the student who is 20, remember that using a fake ID is a misdemeanor, and you will have to report it to the Character and Fitness Committee. No matter your age, we are pleased to see students follow in the footsteps of family members who are graduates of Brooklyn Law School. Tonight, we welcome 25 such students, and with over 23,000 alumni, that is not surprising. All of you are here because we know you're prepared to excel academically, both in the classroom and in the field, through clinics, externships, internships, and pro bono work. Collectively, you've graduated from 164 colleges and universities, having pursued 79 different academic majors. 31 of you have earned postgraduate degrees, including masters, MBAs, MFAs, and PhDs. Here are some of the fascinating examples of work you've done. One of you has conducted legislative research and evaluated city food policies to support the efforts of a local councilman to provide healthy and affordable food to New York City residents. Another has reviewed the United States Refugee Admissions Program and its long-term effects on refugees. One of you has studied attachment biases in cardiovascular and behavioral responses to acute stressors, which I am impressed by because I do not know what that means. And one of you has developed a case study and presentation about the benefits, challenges, and legislative options for public charter schools in Washington, D.C. Many of you come to Brooklyn already having achieved significant career success. You've held such impressive positions as CEO and founder of a medical device startup, gallery associate at MoMA PS1, economist and staff auditor at the Office of the New York City Comptroller, accountant and financial analyst at PricewaterhouseCoopers, agent in a leading talent and sports agency, and clinical research specialist at Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. You're not only intellectually and professionally impressive, you're also accomplished artists and athletes too. We could have a show, Brooklyn's Got Talent, right? Among you today are several varsity athletes, competitive figure skaters, ukulele, violin, clarinet, saxophone, and guitar players. I want to see the band that comes out of that. Pianists and drummers, a novelist and a poet, a competitive ballroom dancer, and a competitive equestrian, a professional lacrosse player, ballerinas, marathoners, and Ironman participants, Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters, a professional photographer, and an award-winning creative writer. Public service and working for the greater good have always been part of Brooklyn Law School's mission since our founding more than a century ago. Now you will carry on and add to this tradition. Many of you have done truly inspiring volunteer work to give back to your communities in the world, including fighting against human trafficking, helping asylum seekers and refugees, and traveling all over the globe to volunteer in orphanages and hospitals, among many other examples. We look forward to seeing you apply this dedication and compassion as law students and in your future careers as lawyers. Many of you have already worked for public interest and government organizations, including the founder of a nonprofit organization that provides reduced cost housing for cancer patients and caregivers while receiving treatment, an executive board member of an organization fighting homelessness in Portland, Oregon, a translator at the Legal Aid Society, a philanthropy program specialist at the National Conservancy in New York City, and several teachers and tutors in AmeriCorps programs all across the country. I've also noticed that many of you are former bartenders, brewers, and nightlife promoters, and I've written down your names to pass on to the faculty in case one of us needs to hire a student worker. So many stories, experiences, and talents in this class, many of which can't be summarized in a speech like this. You all deserve to be here. And we are so happy that you have chosen to join us, an extraordinary group of students who have traveled many different paths to arrive at this singular point tonight. Looking around, can you guess who is who? You'll have the next 1 to 4 years to find out as you become classmates, lifelong friends, and members of our extraordinary Brooklyn Law School community. So, our final speaker tonight is your Dean and President of Brooklyn Law School, Michael Cahill. But before I tell you about him, I'd like to remind you that following Dean Cahill's comments, there will be a reception outside on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the courthouse, where you can better get to know your fellow classmates and faculty. Michael Cahill became President and Dean of Brooklyn Law School on July 1st, 2019, not terribly long ago, returning from Rutgers Law School, where he had been co-dean and professor of law. Before becoming dean at Rutgers, Michael was a member of the Brooklyn Law School faculty for 13 years. He also served Brooklyn Law School as Associate Dean for Academic Affairs from 2010 to 2013 and as Vice Dean from 2013 to 2015. As Dean, Cahill holds the Joseph Crea Chair in Law and is a tenured professor of law on the faculty. Dean Cahill's scholarship focuses primarily on criminal law, although he's also written about and taught courses in health law and policy. His criminal law work includes 3 books written with fellow criminal law scholar Paul Robinson, Law Without Justice, published by Oxford University Press, Aspen Publishers' Treatise on Criminal Law, and the student casebook Criminal Law, Case Studies and Controversies, also written with Shima Bowman. Dean Cahill received his JD, magna cum laude, and Master's in Public Policy degrees from the University of Michigan and his BA from Yale University. After graduating from law school, where he was the note editor for the Michigan Law Review, he served as a law clerk to Judge James B. Loken of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit. He then was involved as staff director and consultant, respectively, for major criminal code reform projects in the states of Illinois and Kentucky. I present to you our Dean and President, Michael Cahill.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How we doing? If you didn't hear yourself in Dean Mulligan's list, it's cool. I play no instrument, I speak one language. I will try to speak it well and relatively briefly, but I have to take advantage of this chance to talk to you and my colleagues without your phones. I may never get this level of attention again over the balance of your time here. So as you just heard, I am becoming dean as you are becoming law students, so you are officially my first class. And so I can tell you, because firsts are always special, you will always be my favorites. Don't tell next year's class. Let this be our secret. You're my favorites. So while I have this opportunity, I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I want to talk to you about why you're here, and then about why we're all here. Or to put it another way, I want to talk about what law school is for, and a little bit about what lawyers are for. And I'd like to do that by focusing on just 3 words. So if I see you at the reception afterward, just remember the 3 words, just humor me. And the first 2 words will be easy because they go together. It's a pair. You will hear them a lot as you go through law school, and especially as you get closer to graduating. Those 2 words are character and fitness. You just heard Dean Mulligan utter that phrase. It's very familiar to all of the lawyers in the room because they know that to be admitted to practice law in New York State or any other state, you not only need to pass the bar, you need to satisfy what's known as the character and fitness requirement. In fact, many of us here who are lawyers have heard that phrase so many times that we don't really contemplate the meaning of the words in it. And we also frequently tend to think of the character and fitness test in a negative sense. That is to say that you satisfy character and fitness if you don't do anything wrong or bad. So we don't think in terms of bringing honor to the profession. We think about avoiding bringing it into disrepute, right? Have you ever killed anyone? Have you ever stolen money from an employer? Have you ever left your job as a high school chemistry teacher to become the mastermind of a large drug dealing operation? No? Okay. We're good. Glad that one landed okay. Things get dated very quickly. But I want to encourage you not to think about character and fitness as the avoidance of bad things. I want you now, and as you go through law school, to think very seriously about those 2 words, because law school is fundamentally about your commitment to developing the character and fitness to become a lawyer, and our commitment to modeling those traits for you and cultivating those traits in you. What do I mean? What is character and fitness? Well, of course I need to bring up a figure you've already heard about multiple times from Dean Mulligan, from Gloria, Joe Crea. Let me tell you a bit about Joe Crea. Joe Crea, in the course of the 60 years that he taught at this law school, taught pretty much every course that we offer with talent and with energy, such that literally thousands of Brooklyn Law School graduates remember his impact on them with affection and with gratitude. That is fitness. Being ready to do your job, whatever it calls for, not only with the minimum level of skill that it demands, but at a level that will arouse the respect, the admiration, and an effort to emulate you from people who are your colleagues and peers. And Joe was not only fit as a professor himself, but was at pains to make sure that his colleagues were fit as well. He would get, and many of my colleagues will remember this, he would get advance sheets, as they're called, not yet published opinions from the New York courts that were just recently issued in all subject matters. He would take them, he would read them, and then he would distribute them to his colleagues who taught in the fields that they impacted, and that included me. He knew that I taught healthcare law and criminal law. He would send me, by interoffice mail, opinions in those areas so that I could read them. This was when he was about 90 years old, when I joined the faculty. And then, later in his career, Joe gave back to the law school, not only through teaching, not only through helping his peers, but financially. He gave generously and made sure that others gave generously as well. And his gifts and those of others are why I have the good fortune not only to stand before you as the Dean of Brooklyn Law School, but as was mentioned, to hold the title of Joseph Crea Dean, reflecting the endowed chair created in Joe's name. That is character. working your hardest, and going out of your way to help other people when nobody will notice if you don't do those things. That's character. And if you emerge from here with just a fraction of the character and fitness of your predecessor, Joseph Crea, Brooklyn Law School class of 1947, you will have done your job, and we will have done ours. But to what end are you developing this character and fitness? Well, that brings me to my third and final word, which is not just about legal education, but about the legal profession, which you are entering right now. You are joining the legal profession at this moment. You need to have character and fitness to be a doctor, a journalist, an accountant, any of various other fields. What's the mission of this one? Each of those professions has its own mission, and we have ours, and our mission can be summed up in a single word: justice. To be a lawyer is to commit yourself to pursuing justice, which means that first, you must believe in justice. You must believe that it is in our collective power to make our community, our society, our world a more fair, more decent, more humane place. In other words, whether or not you realized it when you applied, and although we are a non-sectarian school, as you'd be checking on your phones when you hear this, you are now joining a faith-based community. Now, it's not a religious faith that lawyers share, although some of them may be adherents to religious faiths as well. Ours is a secular faith. It is a belief that it is in our power to make the world a better place, that we can promote justice through institutions and rules that we create. In other words, through law. That's our mission. And I want to share some good news and some bad news about that mission. The bad news is that at times, it is really hard. And I don't just mean it's hard to achieve justice. I mean that at times, it is hard to maintain your belief that justice exists and is possible. Like adherents of any faith, we all experience, and you will experience, moments of doubt. And indeed, as Gloria alluded to in her remarks, the first year of law school is in some ways designed to create doubt, because you're given a variety of perspectives that are designed to test and challenge your own principles and ideas, to see things from different points of view, at times at the risk of losing your own bearings and your own confidence. But let me assure you that the goal of that is not, although it may feel that way, the goal is not to make you cynical or dejected. To the contrary, lawyers, unlike people in other professions, do not have the option of just giving up hope. If you think that the world is broken and that it can't be fixed, then you should have joined a punk band or make documentary films or manage a hedge fund or something. Because that is not the business that you are entering today. We are not trying to make you lose faith, but to enrich your understanding, to broaden your perspective, even at the cost of some short-term confusion, with the confidence that we have as true believers that that doubt and that confusion are not things to avoid. They are things to grapple with, to confront, and ultimately to overcome. But it's not always easy. So consider yourself warned. The good news, though, is that while it isn't easy, it is worth it. Pursuing justice is extremely satisfying. If you don't believe me, ask any of these people to my left, my right, and behind me. Partly because it's a worthwhile endeavor in and of itself, but also because it is fundamentally optimistic. We are a hopeful profession. And if you can embrace that optimism and that sense of hope, you will have a very happy and very fulfilling career. The second piece of good news, as Gloria also said, is that in pursuing this mission of the lawyer, you've come to the right place. Seated to my right, to my left, and behind me are the women and men of this faculty and administration. These are people who have devoted their careers, their energies, and their formidable talents to making sure that we are promoting justice, to understanding what it means to live in a just society and try to make that understanding of justice a reality. I was here for 13 years, I left, and I'm now coming back. I came back here because I know these people, and I knew that I would be proud and thankful every day to be working with them and for them. I am now proud and thankful to be joined by a group as diverse and as talented and as impressive as you are. Welcome to Brooklyn Law School.